Hello, everybody. Today, I will be talking about welding versus bolting, which is two things used in construction. My name is Sam Ricewig. I am a CM major, construction management major at Boise State University, and I am 19 years old. So let's get into some basics. Welding. Welding is fusing two pieces of metal together, which is shown on the left, which is basically using high heat to stick pieces of metal together. And then bolting, which is squeezing two pieces of metal together like this using pressure. Welding. So welding uses high heat to fuse or melt two pieces of metal together. It's typically used in industrial building. And then the main type of welding is arc welding. And then the types of different welding is TIG welding, tungsten insert gas, MIG welding, metal insert gas, and then arc welding. So these are some types of welding that you do on a site. So T-joint, which is shown in the top right corner, it's where there's a flat plate and then a plate like this, and it's shown as a T, and then you weld the grooves right there so it sticks together tight. And then there's a butt joint, which is the top left, which is two pieces of metal like this, and you weld right here and on the bottom. And then an edge joint, which is shown on the right, which is two pieces of metal like this, and you weld through the top. So TIG welding. TIG welding, some advantages are the welds are clean, it has lots of control, and the welds are strong. But some disadvantages are it's time consuming, you need to be skilled at it, and you can't use this with thicker metals. MIG welding. Some advantages are minor weld splatter, so less sparks and less metal flying places. It's high quality welds, and then you can weld at a pretty good speed. Some disadvantages are it's unsuitable for outside welding, so you usually do this indoors. It's unsuitable for thick metals, so you have to use thinner metals. And then it needs preparation, so the metal, it can't have rust on it, it can't have weird grooves, so you have to make it how you want it before you start welding. Arc welding, which is the main type of welding we'll be talking about. Some advantages are it's simple, it's very easy to move about, and then it's one of the faster weldings. So the disadvantage is it's not suitable for thin metals, so you're going to have to use thicker metals. It does require skill, and then you can't use it on aluminum or titanium. Some advantages and disadvantages. The summary for welding. So it spreads out the weight load, it's long lasting, and better for places with vibration. So it spreads out the weight load so the weight loads are not all in one spot, it evens it out. And then it's long lasting, the welds will last you a while. And then it's better for places with vibrations, like if you were to build a bridge or something where cars were going over it, where the whole thing would shake, you'd use this. And some disadvantages is it does require skill to do, it's time consuming, and then it can only be used with certain metals. So bolting. Bolting uses pressure to keep two metals together. It doesn't have to be metal. It could be metal or wood or metal. And then it's used in all type of building, not just industrial. It could be used for at your house or on a bridge or on a giant skyscraper. It can be used with all type of material, not just metal. So wood with metal, wood with wood, metal with metal. And then some of the types are anchor bolts, hex bolts, and carriage bolts, and there is more. So parts of the bolt. So you have the nut, which goes on the other end of the bolt that has the threads. So you twist that to make it tight. And then there's a tension control bolt, which helps you see what tension the bolt's at. And then the load indicator washer is pretty cool. So it's a washer which goes on the other side of the tensioning, so it's not pushing in, it spreads out the weight load. And then the ones with the orange right there, once you get it to the right tightening, the orange seeps out, and that's how you know how tight it's supposed to be. And then turn of the nut is another way, by you tighten it to where you can't tighten it anymore, and then you undo it a quarter way. Anchor bolts. Anchor bolts are heavy duty, they're easy to install, and they're fast to install. Some disadvantages are possibly break the concrete because these are made for concrete. they're weak in some circumstances, and then they're bad under vibrations. So you wouldn't want to use this on a bridge or something because they could loosen up pretty easily. Hex bolts. They're easy to tighten because of the hex shape on the top. They're made to fit the needs of the project, so you can have them designed a certain way, and there's a bunch of types which will fit what you need to fit, and they're fast to install. Some disadvantages is the tools you need to tighten them will take up room around you. They're higher profile, and then needing to test how tight each one is. So after, you have to make sure that they're the right tension, so you have to make sure that they're tight enough. Carriage bolts. They're great on a smooth surface because of their flat rounding top, so there won't be anything sticking up. You could graze right over it. It sits lower in the metal or wood, depending on what you use, and then they're fast to install. Some disadvantages is the head shape is unique, so you can only use it on certain things, and then you need a lot of them to get what you need done, and then they're time consuming. Advantages and disadvantages of bolts. So some advantages is they can be used on different surfaces, not just metal or wood. Metal and wood works too. They're fast to install and they're strong. Some disadvantages is they can come loose under vibrations. So if there's an earthquake or a bunch of cars moving, the nut won't stay tight and it could come loose and make the structure unstable. And then you need many for one project. You'll need for one beam, you'll need a couple instead of just one weld. You'll need a couple. And then you need different types for different parts of the project. So you'll use a hex bolt on one part and then an anchor bolt on the other. You don't just use a hex bolt for everything. So the comparison. Welding is more expensive, but it's stronger. There's less movability, so it'll stay together better, but it's harder to install. Bolting is less expensive, but it's weaker, and it's not very good on vibrations, but it's easy to install. Well, that's it. So welding is used for some things, and then bolting is used for other things. It just depends what type of project you need.